Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Maggie Murphy. I am one of the directors at Equal Playing Field. We are coming to you live as one of our Equal Playing Field sisters, Dina, is in the middle of a Guinness World Record attempt. She already has 4 Guinness World Records under her belt. I first met Dina in 2016, preparing for our first ever Guinness World Record in 2017, which was the highest altitude football match ever played at the top of Kilimanjaro. She has a lot of resilience, though. She's gone on to do another Guinness World Record in Jordan, which is where I met Maryana, who joins us from Jordan today. And Dina carried on to get another couple of Guinness World Records last year in France alongside the Women's World Cup. So Dina has been going now for about 7 or 8 hours. Word on the street is that she has already beaten the existing Guinness World Record after just 7 or 8 small hours. She's just a moment ago kicked enough penalties to beat the unofficial Guinness World Record, which was her personal target, but she still has hours and hours and hours to go. So she is going to be setting the standards high. It takes a lot of resilience. Dina has it in spades. And really what we're going to talk about just now with Pippa and Maryana is about that mental resilience, about the psychology of the game, because a lot of the time we focus on the physicality, the team tactics, the how you organize on a pitch. But I think for Pippa and Maryana, it's a lot about organizing the mind as well. So very quickly, let me introduce you to Maryana. Maryana is out in Jordan working on lots of sport for development projects. She was for almost 10 years the goalkeeper for the Jordan national team. Cracking goalkeeper, I can promise you that. And now works with lots and lots of different people on the sport psychology and in coaching, from teachers to players themselves to coaching coaches. So Maryana, welcome to this live broadcast.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for the great introduction. And I hope the best for Dina. I think she will prove more and more than the expected. And all the best for Dina. And thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome. Also with us is Pippa Grange. Now, Pippa has many years of experience in sports psychology as a performance psychologist. Spent a long time in Australia working with Olympians, working in a whole range of sports, individual and team sports. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but now refers to herself a little bit more as a culture coach as opposed to just a performance psychologist. Pippa, welcome to this Equal Playing Field live feed.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. And what a legend Dina already is. A few hours in, as you say, it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic to kind of almost feel like we're with her while she goes through this. But I want to start with you, Pippa, and I want to start thinking about Dina. Now, obviously today is a very, very different situation from normally taking penalty kicks. But, this is something that you've worked on in your past. You worked with the England national team ahead of World Cups and ahead of major tournaments. So how is it that you can help support one individual player take a penalty against all the noise and all the pressure and all the background? Like, where do you even start? How do you start with that individual player when there might be millions of eyes watching that person?
Yeah, there's so many distractions for that individual at that moment, isn't there? But mostly it's about getting the person to recognize where their mind is. Whether they have been caught off in whether their attention's been swept away by thinking about what might go wrong, by overthinking the technical aspects of it. But somebody like Dina has practiced this millions and millions of times. Literally, she doesn't need to be thinking too much about the technical. She needs to just execute the skill she already knows. So mostly it's about noticing where your mind is and putting it where you want it to be. So it's an attentional control issue as much as anything. being in the right emotional state and managing your mind and not letting it go, go wandering off on its own little journey while you're trying to take a penalty, basically.
Is it even possible to prepare
stuff
for that kind of thing? Is it possible to imagine yourself in a World Cup final in the 89th minute?
Absolutely, it is. Actually, visualization and sort of imagery is a key tactic in doing this, of sort of, mentally running through the experience of that. And some people go to real extremes and kind of put the, the noise and the distraction of a stadium or into the practice itself. But visually, mentally, you can visualize that and use imagery really well to do it. And you can also, there's also many techniques that you can use as an individual player to cue your attention. Some people might use a statement or a visual focus on the horizon that they want to pay attention to manage their mind. Probably the most important or most well-used technique is to follow your breath. So to use the breath to come back into the body and be in a calm enough state to be clear and to just execute your skill without allowing fear and all of the anxiety and worry about who's watching to get in the way. So definitely something you can absolutely work on.
Is that similar advice that you would give to a goalkeeper on the other end, facing those penalties?
Absolutely. It's there's a lot that you can't control in a scenario as a goalkeeper that you possibly can control as a penalty taker. However, the cueing in of your attention, the being in the right emotional and somatic zone, physical zone, and paying attention to the stuff you want to pay attention to, that's the job. And you can rehearse that, and the better you have a routine for that, the more readily you can access it when you need it.
Maryana, I mean, you are a goalkeeper. You are usually on the other end of the ball, and a lot of focus is on the player taking the penalty. But what about the pressure on the goalkeeper? Do you think it's as much as on the penalty taker? And how would you deal with that in that situation?
Yeah, I think it's the same, because both of us, we have the responsibility on our shoulder. It's make us more have stress and anxiety, as Pippa, she say, because all of us see us and all of one have the eyes on us, and he need to score, I need to protect my goal, my team, and maybe sometimes this is the road for us to move ahead or to move another station or something like this. So for the goalkeeper, we say this is our zone, so we protect our zone, and we need to focus, and we need to read the player. So we have many things in our head, and we need to focus on the ball. We need to read the game. We need to read how the player will shoot, right, left, up, down. So all of this make the pressure more and more on the goalkeeper, and we need to focus more and to have this stress. So maybe all of the pressure make more and more. It's difficult for us, especially the penalty, because it's 1-by-1. It's 1v1. So really it's difficult, and it's depend on the experience and how the goalkeeper read the player where he will shoot. So it's make it difficult, a lot of pressure and stress for the goalkeeper.
And have you been able to bring some of that learning to the people that you're coaching and working with in Jordan? How do you bring the psychosocial side of things to individuals that you're working with there?
Yeah, here in Jordan, we don't have too much common about psychosocial support, especially in the sports zone. So we don't have psychosocial support too much. So when we are kids, so we have, we support each other, but we don't know the concept that this is psychosocial support. So now my idea to include psychosocial support, to know how to support each other if some of the colleagues have stress or anxiety from the audience, from the coach, from the game, how we will support each other. So my idea is to include psychosocial support, to understand the concept, how we can include this a huge and important concept to our mental mental health and to our mental sport, especially here in Jordan, because we have a lot of pressure, especially because football is a national, yani everyone play football and everyone he need to go to the national team. This is make also more stress and pressure in the kids to have this, to go to the national team. So because we don't have, so we give it in the workshop, what the concept of psychosocial support, how we support the kids if he have some problem, how we can support him, especially when we have a mental health problem or a problem, family problem, and he come to sport to have this, to get out of this, how we will support him. This is the idea of what we do, especially here in Jordan.
I want to come back to the work that you're doing in Jordan, because I know that you're also working with refugee communities as well that are suffering all forms of trauma, where football can be a release and something where they don't want pressure on them. But just coming back quickly to the idea of this individual and the goalkeeper in particular, you as a goalkeeper, you talk about the trust ball.
Yeah.
What's the trust ball? For someone, I would never dream of playing in goal, but what does the trust ball mean to you?
Yeah, in the training we have the coach. He always told us the first ball, it's the trust ball for a goalkeeper. They give us the trust for the team, the trust for yourself. So if you catch the first ball, this is the trust ball. We call it for us. خلاص, I can control the game after that. So if you fall with this trust ball, you feel less confidence, a lot of stress, and I need to get back to the confidence, to give the team the trust. This is the trust ball. We call it the most important ball in the game, and especially for the goalkeeper, because it's a lot of stress. This is especially for the first ball. This is make us think I need to catch it, to give the trust to our team, because the trust came from me and it's go to the team.
So it's so fascinating, because the goalkeeper is just one person within the team, and yet sometimes it feels like there's so much pressure being the last person, and that concept of the trust ball is fascinating. Pippa, is that kind of trust element across a team, how do you build that? How do you take, especially on a national level, how do you take these individual players that are playing for other teams, how do you bring them together into something successful, a team that actually cooperates and works with each other? How do you create that trust, especially when they might be competing for each other's positions?
Yeah, there's two types of trust that you need to work on. One is what I call the functional trust. So do you trust each other to that it's literally safe hands? It's somebody is capable of doing their job and they will do their job. Do you have that trust that the other person is going to technically play the same game and not go off on their own journey? So there's functional trust like that, which you have to do. That's through experience and everybody being really clear about the game plan and lots of really good communication. But then there's personal trust, and you have to work on that too. And there's no personal trust if there's no relationships. So the most important thing to do is get to know each other, and sometimes it's the last thing we do in teams, because there's so much else to do that's technical work. But if you're not able to be, I use the word really deliberately, intimate, if you're not able to actually show up as who you are, and be authentic, and get to know the person next to you, get to know your other teammates. Trust is very hard to build without that relationship, without that sort of sense of openness and intimacy. In sports psych, we would call it bond, a team bond. And that is where trust lies. And you don't get it without that. You might have the functional trust, which means you can execute the game plan, you can be technically very good together, but there's something missing, and it's in the connection between players, in the ability to know where somebody else, know that somebody else will do the right thing, and be in it together, especially under pressure. That bond is so critical. So functional trust and personal trust, and you have to work on both.
It's so interesting, because a lot of people almost smile and joke about team bonding, whether it's in a workplace or a sport environment.
Yeah.
What are the great ingredients for for a successful team bonding event? What can you advise all the football clubs or other sports clubs out there? What actually makes it work as opposed to just being some social?
Yeah, I think ask the players what would work. Sometimes the worst thing is if you do, the worst thing if you're an athlete and you feel like you're forced to do a team bonding exercise. It can feel so cheesy and, nobody wants to do it. So I think it's much easier if there's a leadership group in the team and you can kind of communicate through the leadership group and how would you like to do team bonding? But or how would you like even framing that differently? What do you think would help you get to know each other a lot better? And sometimes it's not what you expect. I remember one in a real sort of a few days before a World Cup final for a rugby league team I was working with, and they were feeling very tense, and there was some disconnection in the team. And we were in London, and they decided they wanted to go on a ghost train. They wanted to go to sort of a haunted house and they wanted to have a laugh. So they wanted to have an experience where they would just, all the pressure's off, and they just had the release of screaming and giggling and laughing that dealt with it. And they got back together quite quickly. But that was their idea, that they wanted to do something social. And sometimes it's deeper, and it might be discussions, who are you? What do you care about? Tell me about your family. What has your journey been? What are your highlights? Who are your heroes? That kind of thing. So, but I think it's really important that the players are able to be part. If it's a mature team, or there is maturity in the team, to be able to ask them what would work for them, and not kind of impose it always.
You talked about that kind of intimacy, and that comes back to what Maryana was talking about, trust and the trust ball. But there must be examples of when that high level of intimacy can feel broken and trust is broken. Have you had to deal with situations in teams or in environments where actually, despite all the efforts to build that trust, it's been broken? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have. It's sport is like a very sort of small microcosm of life, and all of the personality dynamics and all of the drama that happens in life happens in a team in much more intense ways. So that comes up a lot. But the thing that you must do is talk about it. If you allow it to kind of fester in the background, if you allow it to be unspoken or unsaid, not very often does it go away on its own. If it's a serious trust break, you have to deal with it. You have to bring people together and say, what's up? Let's talk about it. And that's the role of a culture coach or a coach or a sports psych, or somebody who's working in that kind of relational role, somebody who's running interference on all those things that can go wrong, and making sure that the team, they don't have to love each other, but they do have to trust each other to really get the very best out of the team. So you mustn't let that stuff go unmanaged.
I guess it must be really tricky in an environment where people are really vying for places. So you talked about the personal trust, but then also the kind of, I guess, more practical trust of, are they competent? Yeah. Are they good enough? I guess you're dealing with lots of people's judgments in the end. I mean, gosh, there's a million fans out there that each have completely different viewpoints on particular players and how well they're playing. That must be a really core element of your work, to work with players that maybe feel like they should be starting or don't trust in their other teammates. How do you stop a kind of rot setting in when people feel like they're not being valued, or that they feel like they should be playing when they're actually a team? How does that work for you?
I think that, when you have a team where you've really got a culture of relentless honesty, which requires a lot of vulnerability and a lot of courage. When you have a team that can do that, you have a winning team to start with. So these things can be aired, even if they're aired just to the coach or to the doc or to the psych or something, where people can say it out loud rather than hide those feelings. You've got a lot more chance of getting through it. But I think as well, having the individual focus on, if somebody's saying, I feel like I should be playing, and, she got a spot that I should have had, kind of thing. that's just really normal ups and downs of a sporting journey. But to be able to bring the athlete back to what can you control? How can you cultivate resilience and patience? So resilience has a lot to do with being able to bounce back from setbacks. It's about challenge mindset. It's about a set of psychological skills that help you cope under pressure. And it's also about bouncing back from things that go wrong or don't go your way. Not always mistakes, but things that maybe frustrations, injuries, that kind of thing, or not being picked, being dropped. So I think that when you can bring it back into that frame of resilience and help people develop the skills for resilience and the mindset, it's helpful. And then have them focus on what they can control within that. But honestly, it's huge.
You've spoken about resilience as well, Maryana, in a team setting. Is that something that, bearing in mind sports psychology is quite new or not very common in Jordan, are you able to bring some of those skills into the environments that you're working with, and what kind of benefits have you seen?
Yeah, so I will continue from Pippa what she say, because we have, sometimes we need to build more social skills than the technical and the techniques, everything, because we as a coaches, also we observe what we miss with our team. Sometimes we miss the spirit, sometimes we miss the trust, the support, especially in the game. Sometimes some of the player need support and everyone have responsibility. So this one, how we can deliver the support for them. So during the training in Jordan, as I work, that we create something like sensitization session with the social skills. We create some games. We include the social skills like trust, resilience, flexibility, communication, and we rebuild our team again. As Pippa, she say, in the game we have a lot up and down. Also after the game we have up and down. You missed that, you did not support me, you say that, you did not go up, you did not shoot. It's common in the football, it's normal and we have it. But the coach, this is responsibility for the coach to rebuild and to do the trust and support for the team, and to have it in funny way to deliver the idea. Like if we have small side game about trust, we have it here in Jordan. We did it for our kids. If we we have it as a small game and we deliver this idea. It's make it more fun. We deliver in easy way. We don't have complicated, and maybe the kids, they like it, and the player, they thought, yes, it's very important to trust each other. And in the other game, after that, maybe we have better trust or better communication, better resilience to accept what happened in the game. This is, we can make it as a coaches because we are observer more than just give the order.
And do you find that within those teams, can you see a change quite quickly with the people that are focusing on those kind of exercises compared to ones that might just focus on the tactical and the physical?
Yeah, and we can say it's not, we can say a high development or change, because some of them, they didn't accept it. They say, khalas, we have a normal football, winning or lose. So we need to change this. Because the football, it's make family, not just playing, winning or lose, because football, it's another word, just to play, to build relationship, to build the family, because we spend time more than we see our family. Because I remember 10 years, I saw my family less than what our teammate in the team. So the football, it's not just the game winning or lose, but also we have, we don't have a big changing in this, but we work on that. We teach the kids and the younger coaches to have this idea in their mind, because when they grow up, they have this idea. The football is not just about winning or lose. No, we have a lot of concept, social concept, psychology concept, mental health concept, all of them in the sport. So we need to include every concept, we have it in the football or in a sport in general.
It sounds like what you're describing is embedding a culture in the teams that you're working with that might even be a differentiation, might differentiate your teams from from others. Do you see that cultural element as being wider than just the players on the team? It's also about the environment you're working in.
Yeah, I think we need it's equal. If you work in the technique, also you need to work in the environment, on the trust, everything. We cannot work on the technical and we forget the environment, because the environment builds the team. The environment make the player feel comfortable, trust each other, have this spirit, because usually when we go to the game, we say we will play as a one team, one spirit, one person. So the environment to create this one spirit, one team, and we can go to the game if we have this spirit, we have this equality between the environment and the technique.
Pippa, that brings me back to you. I said at the beginning that you refer to yourself as a culture coach now, as opposed to maybe a performance psychologist. Maybe I've not done that justice, but why have you said that before? And what do you see as the development, I guess?
The reason I describe myself as a culture coach is because what I've observed over sort of 25 years in the field is that you can do really amazing work with one individual and they can improve, but unless they are in the container that they're in, the environment that they're in will mean that they'll find their very best or not. Like, culture is a strong factor in how we behave, how free we feel to go and express our very best on the pitch. Or to speak up in a meeting. Culture is very strong, so we have to work up on both levels. And I love the one-on-one work as well. But for me, the only times I've genuinely seen success is where you've worked on the team culture, like as Maryana said, the whole environment, so that there's you're working on the soul of the team, if you like. And that there are things like the team identity, what people are proud of, the shared heritage, what the badge means on your shirt, the sense of camaraderie or family, and what success means to you outside of the scoreboard. That's so important, because this is a long journey usually. A football career is a long journey, hopefully, for people. So those things really matter, and they're cultural factors, not just personal factors. So it gets lonely in a football team if you're the only person with that view, and it's very hard to achieve and sustain success from there. So I think it's a much richer journey if we work on the culture, both for the players, for the fans, for everybody involved. If we can create something that's shared.
Yeah, and Maryana, I don't want to forget about the comment I made earlier about you working within refugee communities. Yeah. That brings a lot of different communities together into one area. So you've got an additional challenge of lots of home cultures that are different, I guess, coming into Jordan and you then working with them, but then having a kind of football culture as well. Is that a way of Is football an easier way of approaching setting a kind of trusting environment? Are there any differences with the refugee communities that you work with in Jordan?
Yeah, I can say football can make change in everything, because football, it's the easier way that we collect everyone in one field, and they play, and they forget they are refugee, they are from Jordan, or they have this and this and this. When they came to play football, they forget everything. So we try to have, even if it's refugee, to have social cohesion between the Jordanian, the refugee from everywhere, Syrian, Palestinian, Iraqi, everywhere, to create this spirit, or have this live football, because the football make change. They forget everything. They forget what they have seen, or what they expect from what they will have in the future. Just they came, they have fun. And we see that in Wadi Rum, because we have a lot of girls, they did not touch the pool once in their life, and they came to Wadi Rum, and they Some of them, they are refugees. Some of them, they are not allowed to play football. Some of them, they have a lot of anxiety, mental health issue. They have a lot of different experience in their life. When they come to play football, they forget everything. So we make football, this is the easy way to break every barriers and just to have fun.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Maryana, if you could think forward maybe 5 years in the work that you're doing, what's your hope for the communities that you're working with and the work that you do? What is your kind of goal for the next few years?
Yeah, so my goal also to have this concept, really, to have psychosocial supports included, and it's to be important concept in football or in sport, because usually the coaches, they say, are you okay, and we think just on the technical side. We did not think about our mental, our social. If it's I'm ready to play, yani my body ready to play. I hope after 3 or 4 years, we have many coaches, they believe in psychosocial support. They believe on the trust, on the spirit more than the technical, because this is what make my team strong. And this is make me more strong and closer to my kids or my player. This is, I hope after 3 or 4 years, we have this concept, and inshallah, it will be common concept to help them. The committee or the community, they love football.
And Pippa, do you have any advice then for other teams around the world, or other clubs, teams, football associations around the world? What would be your advice or suggestions for embedding this better into different structures? How do you start with this?
I think that if the starting point is a mentality that there's a person behind the shirt, and that when you think about performance, you think about performance in every aspect. So technical, tactical, physical, and also psychosocial, the classic 4 corners model of that. And any program should have elements of each of those things with equal weight, because it's not just about the richness of the journeys, but it genuinely translates to performance on the field as well, on the field of play. So, any program should.
I've lost Pippa. Maryana, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Well, one of the things I was going to do was plug Pippa Grange's very new book that has just come out. So for that last piece of advice that you would be able to get from Pippa being on our live stream today.
Sorry, I lost you.
I was just suggesting that people buy a copy of your book that has just come out to find out that last little nugget of success that you were going to impart. What's the name of your book?
It's called Fear Less: How to Win at Life Without Losing Yourself.
Brilliant. I've ordered a copy. It's on its way, so I'm excited to read it.
Thank you, Maggie.
Maryana, I wish you the absolute best in the next 5 years. I gave you a kind of target of embedding that psychosocial support in sport in Jordan. But I think Jordan is in very, very safe hands. And Pippa, we really appreciate your time and your advice. And I do hope people go out and buy your book. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And we just need to kind of head back and check in on Dina and see how she's doing with her own mental resilience and her own strength in the mind as well as in the body. So I really appreciate you joining us, and thank you so much.
Thank you,
thanks Maryana.
Thank you. Bye-bye.